I used to read the Bible and try to figure it out, try to know God through reading the Bible, and I wasn't very successful. I just piled up questions and more questions. Because, for one thing, I could not understand the God of the Old Testament. Because to me, I could only conceive of God as being all-knowing and everywhere present and all-powerful. And that is one thing the Bible does say about God, and yet this Old Testament God is a lot more. I mean, he is a vengeful God and a jealous God, and the scriptures say just that. I have this computer on a website right now called Bible Atrocities and Contradictions. And the reason I want to talk about this is because people are trying to be like God now. They're afraid of this ideal they have of a vengeful God. So they're trying to pass laws that they think will show God that they're doing something about all the bad stuff happening on our earth. And some of them think that the bad stuff is because we allow gays to get married and that we allow abortions. And they don't think that that is pleasing God and that he may become so angry with us that he will cause terrible things to happen to us. And I can see how they would believe that, because if they've read their Bible, the Old Testament, they see the actions of this vengeful God. And so they're trying to become more like God, and at the same time they say of the New Age people, you think you're God. And we do. I mean, we think we're God in training. We're gods slumbering like a sleeping giant. We have powers like God has, but we haven't realized them yet. But we do know, yes, we are made in the image and likeness of God. And even Jesus in the scriptures has said, "No, you're not. Ye are gods." Now, of that scripture, some people say, well, he was mocking the people. No, he didn't do that. He didn't use that kind of wit. He was always serious when he talked to the people. And people today kind of do that, especially in politics. They use wit, and it shows a lack of seriousness. I don't think Jesus did that when he said, "No, you're not, that ye are gods." But I want to tell you that it's not good to imitate the God of the Bible. It is not good. It is causing all the trouble we see in our lands today. It is causing one nation to hate another nation. It's causing a lot of trouble because we don't understand or know the real God. Now, I'm just going to tell you that I was listening to a video the other day about New Age beliefs, and this person was really against them. But yet I was fascinated to hear him talk about the history of the New Age. And he mentioned names and people and things they have brought out that I was just very happy to hear. Of course, he was talking about it like it was something terrible. But he said this one thing, I had never thought about it that much before. He said, some people even worship Lucifer and think God is the bad guy. And I thought, well, yeah, I can understand why that could be. Now, this is not that I worship Lucifer, but I do try to understand. And I know that Lucifer was presented in the Garden of Eden as a serpent that told Adam and Eve that they could be as God and know good and evil like God. Now, I don't know that that is a bad thing to want to do. I think it's a pretty good thing to be as God. It's an excellent thing, as a matter of fact. And to know good and evil, you have to know them both in order to make your judgment of what is good. And this Lucifer appeared as, well, he was said to be an angel of light. And those two things, being an angel of light and saying, I want you to be as gods, has been made to be something really terrible, but yet the Old Testament God that is proclaimed to be the one to love Let me just show you from this website here with the Bible atrocities some of the things this God had his people do, because I can see how they would think this is the devil and the Lucifer was the good guy. Okay, now there's one scripture that says the fruit of the Spirit of God is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And yet, all through the Old Testament, and I'm going to go through this, it shows that God was anything but those fruits of the Spirit. For one thing, there were many people that the Israelites killed, all on their trip from the Egypt to the Promised Land, which was Canaan. They didn't just kill the Canaanites; they killed all the people on the way, and it took them 40 years. So there was a lot of people they met up with on their journey to their Promised Land, and the things they did were so atrocious. Okay, let me find. I might have it on the wrong page. Well, what I want to say is, I'm not going to point, I'm just going to remember them and tell you, but they're on this site called Bible Atrocities and Contradictions. This God of the Old Testament had them kill people, men, women, children, the unborn, even the animals sometime. And he had them do this over and over and over throughout the lands they passed through. And no attempt was made to convert them to any kind of way of believing. It was just kill them. And sometimes God would get mad at his people if they didn't kill all the people. One time they didn't kill the women and children, and God was angry with them. And he told them, well, save the girls that are virgins and kill all the rest of the women and children, and give those little virgin girls to the men to do with as they wish. Now that's something that's not good. That is not love. And in killing the people in those lands they passed through, sometimes they would say, kill the children before you kill the fathers, so they see their children being killed. So they have to suffer that way as well as be killed themselves. That is just totally unnecessary and cruel beyond anything you could imagine any dictator of these days being. If someone did something like that nowadays, we wouldn't have anything good to say about them. And yet, this was God of the Old Testament. And there's also a scripture that says, blessed, happy is he who dashes the little children against the wall. In other words, be happy that you're killing even the little children. And there's another one that says to rip the woman that's pregnant, rip her belly open and kill her and her unborn. And that's just how they treated the enemy. They even treated their own people very terrible. Sometimes God would get angry at them and cause them to have to become cannibals themselves and eat their own children and parents and partners. I really hate saying this because it's a disgusting thing to even mouth it. And I've never been able to acquaint how Jesus compared to God, because Jesus was so totally the opposite of God. Jesus would be one who said, love the enemy and be good to those who despitefully use you and persecute you. And he would say about warring with people, he said, if you live by the sword, you shall die by the sword. And he said, also, resist not evil. And so I cannot compare the God of the Bible with Jesus. And while I believe in Jesus, I don't believe in the entire Bible. and I don't think everything said in it about Jesus is actually true, but some of them are. So yes, I cherry pick the Bible. I believe some of the things Jesus said, especially when he said, a man is as he thinketh in his heart. And when he said, if you do not doubt, you can have whatsoever you say. Doubting is our enemy. And when he said, fear not. Many things that Jesus is reported to have said in the Bible, I do believe. But I just do not see that people today that, well, I'm not talking about all Christians, but some of them, the ones that are more fundamentalist in their thinking, they want to say Jesus is the only way to salvation. And they want to present the God of the Old Testament as the God. And they're not mentioning in their sermons all of these horrible things that God did in the Old Testament. And I think in not doing that, they're just avoiding the issue so that people don't question them too much about this God of revenge and anger and condemnation and judgment. And he was the executioner, sometimes even of little children, for something so innocent as laughing at a holy man. There's one account where when they laughed at this holy man and called him Old Baldy or something like that, God caused a bear to come out of the woods and maul to death about 30-something little children who were making fun of the old man. So it's not a beautiful picture of God that we get in the Old Testament. And I challenge anyone who would say, yes, this is God and these things are right. They're not right. I want to read to you now, and this I will love doing much better. This is the true God, and I will put some playlists for this over in the description bar so that you will see what and who God really is. Because we have to understand who God is so we can be like God, but be like the real God, not the Bible God. I will read just a little of this, and then I will make a second video to finish it out. And this is Walter Russell's words in his Divine Illiad I, which is a book that I have typed up, and I have it in my Google files, and I can send it to anyone. And if you want to know the real God, this is the book for you. I've got Divine Illiad I and Divine Illiad II and The Secret of Light, all by Walter Russell. And you will love the God that Russell knew and talked about and got the words of. Many of the words in the Divine Illiad are direct from God that Russell, after he gives them to us, he kind of goes into an explanation of what he thinks they mean. This part I'm going to read now is just a little bit of Divine Illiad I. In our search for God, there are many things we do have to know in order to comprehend His law, and we cannot obey it until we do comprehend it. In 100 years, there has been a vast physical transformation of all civilization through greater advancement given to us by the great scientific geniuses who have learned how to do things with matter and the forces of nature. But when you ask science the why of things, science flounders. Scientists say all we know is that the universe is light, just electric waves of light. We have only recently acquired that information. Only within the last 25 years, well, it's been longer than that because this book was written several years ago, have we become aware that the whole universe of matter, your body and mine, trees, suns, and planets, are just waves of light. Science has also said if we knew the secret of light, we would have a new civilization. We might even become aware of God through knowing that secret. There is the answer to that new civilization that is coming now. For we are going to know the secret of light, and we are going to be aware of the nature of God. Man has never been aware of the nature of God. In fact, it has often been declared that the human mind could never comprehend God. That statement has been based upon the assumption that the reason we could never comprehend God is that our senses could not detect God. It is true that we cannot see God, but we can know Him, and therein is the essence of New Age thinking. The next 100 years will see as great a spiritual advance in the culture of our civilization as it has seen physically during the past 100 years. That which we cannot see, we can know. We can see the bodies of men, but we cannot see man. For the supreme being within man is invisible. He cannot be seen. He can only be known. For the same reason, we cannot see God, but we can know Him, and we can know the nature of God by knowing His laws and creative processes.